Welcome again to Techturks, and today we have Yasmin. Yasmin is the co-founder of She Leads Africa. She Leads Africa is a media company that's providing resources for African women wherever in the world to get on with their lives. Yasmin, thank you. Welcome to Techturks.
Thank you.
And why did you start She Leads Africa? And secondly, why did you think it would be successful? Why did you quit your day job to do this?
Oh my god, I'll say something all the time. Okay, so we started She Leads Africa. It actually started off with my co-founder, Afua, who she's Ghanaian by origin, who's grown up in the States. Moved to Nigeria to work at a consulting company called McKinsey. And one of the things is kind of throughout her life and her career, she's been working a lot on women's leadership, issues. So in America, she worked at a company called Emily's List, which works with female candidates who want to run for office. Then in her summers, she used to do resume clinics in Ghana and stuff like that. So she'd been kind of thinking about this for a while. And when she moved to Nigeria, she started getting really involved in the startup ecosystem and would go to a lot of these pitch events, hackathons, and it would always be a huge bro fest. Yeah. And she would ask organizers why is this? And you just get the same ones. Oh, we couldn't find the women. We don't know whether they really want to build these types of businesses. Blah 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 blah. And so she'd been thinking for a while about trying to do a pitch competition for African women. And where I came in, my story is super random. It all starts with a breakup. Yeah. Everything starts with a boy, right? Yeah. So I broke up with my boyfriend. We've been dating for a really long time, and I said to myself, okay, every single weekend I just want to keep myself active, make sure I go out, do something. And so one weekend I went to a women's in leadership conference that my mom was speaking at, and Afua was volunteering there. I started speaking to her, sort of saying, look, I'm trying to find things to occupy my time. How do you find out about opportunities like this? And then she mentioned that she always had this idea for a pitch competition for African women. And the idea really landed with me. I love the thought of how do we think about promoting African women who are really trying to build scalable businesses. People really loved the brand we were building. They liked the tone and the voice that we use to talk about business issues. And so we started just getting so many requests as to do you do this, do you do that, how do you think about this, how do you think about that? And then we started thinking, okay, how do we now shift this from what was just literally meant to be a fun project into a company that actually makes money, that grows, and then it kind of snowballed into 5-6 years. That's where we are now.
Numbers are still you have over 700,000 women across Africa and maybe in other parts of the world. How do you deal with that complexity, because you're providing resources of information? And these people come from different cultural backgrounds, different countries, different issues, different infrastructural problems. How do you manage that as a business? How many people are you in She Leads Africa?
No, our team is, and people are always shocked, our team is really small. We're maybe 12, 15 people. And I think that the way we've thought about some of these some of these regional complexities is one, I think when you create content, you can actually try to be intentionally diverse about the types of things that you put out. And the way we do that is by tracking it. So whether it's stories in our newsletter, people who we profile, speakers who we invite, we actually track what countries are they from, what regions are they from, what types of industries are they from? And so then you start seeing, okay, I've actually been speaking a lot about people in Nigeria and I haven't given much love to people in South Africa or Kenya, so I need to rebalance. And for us, even though we are Pan-African, I would say there are we have our primary markets and then tier 2 markets and then the rest.
If I signed up to She Leads Africa, is there an onboarding process, or do I just dive in there and you're on your own? It's like a buffet. Do what you want to do.
No, to be honest, it is a little bit of a buffet with some, what do you call it, constraints. I would say our lead platforms, because again, I feel you can't be everywhere. Our lead platforms are Instagram and our newsletter. Our Twitter is really not very active. It's done a big following, but it's not our focus, because again, I always feel focus is important in life. You cannot do everything and you can't do everything well. And so for us, typically when people will come to us, it will usually be through Instagram or our newsletter. Our newsletter has an onboarding process where we show you, hey, if you're trying to get the most of She Leads Africa, this is how you should think about doing it. And so what I find is that people will receive our newsletters and then they engage a lot with us on Instagram, where we tend to do a lot of community building types of activities, whether it's having discussions on Instagram Instagram, which you can do like in the comment section, getting people to talk together, getting people to engage. And then also, as I said, like our newsletter, those are like the two things for us.
Do you create networking opportunities for people? And do people say, you know, I'm happy I'm in South Africa because it's created access to markets in terms of information or resources that have made my business better or giving me insight?
So I would say most of our networking opportunities happen, to be honest, a lot of it will be in Instagram comments. And so sometimes we will specifically like put posts up like, okay, hey, like write the type of help that you need. Someone in the comment section respond to someone else. So like there are ways in which you can actually create community that way, because a lot of people are now like meeting each other like digitally. But I mean, I think that for us, like whenever we do events, there was always a strong networking component. And specifically for us, like we try to actually be very, very thoughtful about how that's done. So if you came to some of our events, you'll see that we have a lot of like games, because one of the things that I found is that like when people play together, like it helps like break down. Like if you went to an event and you didn't know people, it'd be a little bit stodgy, maybe you couldn't interact with them. But if we can do like a fun game, I mean, one of the things that we used to do was like putting people into groups and they had to do like a little like rap battle. And at first it sounded like really silly, but it kind of like loosened people up a little bit. And that is how we started finding that people would then like start making connections at some of our events. And so I think that like when you create like networking opportunities, you have to be very, very thoughtful about how do I create this in a way, knowing that like sometimes, you know, Nigerians can be a bit standoffish. So what do I have to do to like break that down so people are comfortable engaging? Half
of Nigeria is women. And then you also have a growing mass affluent segment. And you find that despite the exposure, I find even like male and despite people's exposure, they go to school abroad and everything, there's still some cultural, you know, anchors that prevents them even from actually, I don't want to use the word, I'm going to use the breaking the glass ceiling or getting their independence and freedom to do what they want to do, to express themselves fully and to compete. Because sometimes I think that mental attitude is actually what is that gives you that extra advantage in dealing with stuff.
I mean, I think it's like, look, ultimately, the most developed countries in the world are still having this issue. So to me, it's not like just a Nigeria thing. Like this is a global thing. Like I mean, where is the country where like women are really winning? America to this day still not a single female like, you know, president. I think, look, it's a time issue. This thing is going to take time. How many years has it taken to get to kind of like the imbalanced situation that we're in now? It's going to take time for it to change. I think it's going to be like people continuously seeing that there's a different life that they can live. There's a different way that things can be organized. I think that always moves people. One of the things that I found that was really interesting about SLA is that when we started, we thought that all we needed to do was like just like focus on teaching people skills. Okay, just this is how you do marketing. This is how you do this. And then what we actually found was that like a huge part of our work had to be around inspiring people, about showing people examples of people who look like them, who have like done like X, Y, and Z. Like that piece is like really, really important. And I think like the more examples that we see, like the more people will be like, look, I can do that too. And I think that it will change. It's going to be a slow slog. It's going to be really hard. We're going to move forward and we're going to move backward. But you know, I do believe that like we continue to move in a forwardly direction, because if I compare even like my mom's generation from my generation and the types of things that like women in my generation just like absolutely would not put up with, that you know like my mom or my parents' generation would, I can already see that there's been like a shift and an evolution. And even for me, when I look at, I mean, my little brother is I think like 7 years younger than me. When I look at like their generation, they're even more like, I'm even like, wow, okay, look at you guys go. So I also feel like the pace of change is growing, and maybe that's about technology, which means that like we can see different types of people, we can see different ways that things can be done. But you know, I do overall, I remain a hopeful person, even through like the very, very dark times I think that we see in Nigeria. Yasmin, thank you very much for coming to Techturks. It's been fabulous. Yes, thank you so much for having me.